In this module, we are going to discuss about qualitative research process. In qualitative research process, we discuss about sampling strategy. In a qualitative study, theoretical or purposeful sampling is what is used. Now, when you talk about theoretical sampling means you are studying, suppose an a concept is being studied. At that time, what we do here is we try to target those respondents who might have high theoretical chance of experiencing the particular event. Take for instance, if at all you are studying technological adoption in an organization. So at that time, and maybe the technology is digital twins. So at that time, the high chances who would be able to give you responses would be the chief information officer or the information technology officer or individuals who are working in the role of information technology. So here what we have done is we have maximized the theoretical possibility that we would be able to glean the information from these respondents. We also call it as purposeful sampling. The concept here is based on the purpose we are proposing to study these participants. Compared to a quantitative study, a qualitative study will have less number of participants. A quantitative study, you can expect around 200 to 250 participants. Whereas for a qualitative study, you can conduct even a qualitative study with 5, 7, 10, and so on. So small sample sizes are one of the hallmarks of qualitative study. However, these small sample sizes are, are analyzed in depth in order to bring out the perspectives of various research questions. In order to understand the sample size which are being used in various type of studies, take for instance, if it is a narrative research study, you can expect one or two individuals. And with one or two individual stories, you there are studies being published wherein people, researchers have carried out these studies in order to glean out information as regards to how on various aspects. In a monological study, usually ranges around a sample size of 3 to 10. Grounded theory usually has a sample size from 20 to 30. Ethnography, which is trying to study one single group or culture, one group could be studied. Case studies usually include about 4 to 5 cases in order to understand the within case as well as across the case analysis to get reasonable information about them. And if you are describing using qualitative study, then at least 20 sample size is a must. There is also another perspective to sampling in a qualitative study. One stops collecting data when the categories are saturated. That is, no longer new sparks of insights are revealed from the data. The qualitative research process moves from sampling to the data collection. In data collection, the methods could be observation, interviews, documents, audiovisual, focus group discussion, open-ended questionnaires, or semi-open-ended questionnaires, and so on. How do you record the information? Usually, it could be in olden days, we could take the notes. In the modern parlance, you can audio record it, video record it, but you have to ask the participants permission before you do so, and then transcribe the recording to the data, and then those data can be used for the studies. Data analysis in a qualitative study. Usually, a data analysis in a qualitative study is done in phases. First, you read maybe if it is an interview, then you read the interview totally, mark the individual meaning units, then compare these meaning units across the interviews to carry out meta categories in order to build a theoretical explanation about the study, what you are looking at. That is what we have the concepts called as coding the data. Then these codes are being combined to create a theme, and these themes are combined to create a meta theme or a category. In order to validate the findings of the qualitative study, we have two aspects, reliability and validity. First thing would be because there could be mistakes happening in the transcription process. So it is a good strategy that once you transcribe the interview data, suppose if you are looking at the interview data, that the transcribed data is sent back to the participants so that they can examine it and correct anything which is not captured properly. This would improve the reliability of the data and validity also. In terms of subjectivity, there could be like suppose if one analyst categorizes one code to one theme, whereas another categorist has classified one code to another theme. So there could be disagreement. So amount of disagreement between two coders would mean the amount of reliability of this particular concept which are being looked into. So if you have a inter-rater reliability of around 70 to 80%, it's quite sufficient for a qualitative study. One of the one of the limitations of a qualitative study is generalization. The term generalization is in qualitative study is used in a limited way. The intent of the inquiry is not to generalize the finding, but rather explain the phenomena from a particular context. Take, for instance, you are studying the, the emotional burnout of employees in a hospitality sector. So the study is limited to hospitality sector. You cannot generalize the finding in a power sector or in a hospital sector. So this have to be kept in mind when you are generalizing the qualitative studies. If at all you want to generalize the finding, this study can be conducted in in another sector, and then a comparison can be made and findings be published. This brings end to the module.